The government shutdown now in day 6. There doesn't appear to be an end in sight, but you know it will at some point. Meanwhile, you know what game is being played on the left? Politics. Watch.
It's a Republican shutdown because they've refused to talk with us.
The Democrats need to come to that realization and understand their option in front of them here is to open up the government.
Republicans, including Donald Trump, have gone radio silent. And what we've seen is negotiation through deep fake videos, the House canceling votes, and of course, President Trump spending yesterday on the golf course.
They're not serious. This is not a serious negotiation. They're doing this to get political cover because Chuck Schumer is afraid that he won't win his next re-election bid.
Here's a new headline asking, week 2, can the Democrats stay united? And part of that, if Republicans maintain their current strategy, Senate Democrats will have to decide at some point whether what they're fighting for, chiefly an extension of the Obamacare enhanced premium tax credits, is worth the growing pain of the shutdown. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton in Focus in moments. Let's begin with senior national correspondent Aisha Hasni on Capitol Hill. Aisha.
Hey, Harris. Well, Democrats have to do something to get out of this blame game, this messaging war that they're sort of losing at right now. And so Minority Leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, is offering to debate, challenging to debate Speaker Mike Johnson on the House floor in a primetime debate. He says he'll do that any night this week. Here's how the Speaker just responded.
When the poll says that about 13% of the people approve of your messaging, then you make desperate pleas for attention, and that's what Hakeem Jeffries has done. Look, my friend Hakeem had his shot. We debated all this on the House floor.
So whether they like it or not, Democrats find themselves in a very messy situation. The White House keeps blasting them with memes, some of which have racked up 35 million views on X, and Republicans are alleging that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer won't blink because he's afraid he'll lose power to the progressive wing and possibly even a re-election to AOC. Now, Democratic leaders have tried to clap back with their own messaging, but it is falling fairly flat when compared to the far left. For example, Jeffries held a live stream on the government shutdown that yielded about 37,000 views on X. Compare that to 2.5 million views on a similar video from progressive Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC. And as you mentioned, Harris, the question now is whether or not Chuck Schumer can keep his caucus, his conference united, because 3 of them have already sided with Republicans on this short-term CR. They just need to pick off a couple more of those Democrats.
Yes. Aisha, thank you. And Focus now, Senator Tom Cotton of the great state of Arkansas, chairman of the Senate Republican Conference. Good to see you today. Look, I don't know if self-embarrassment is a good tactic when you're begging for primetime television. I mean, liberals get support from many channels across the dial. They're constantly on TV as well. How would that even help their case to debate in the House with what you are doing in the Senate? They sound lost.
Yeah, Harris, they are lost. We're in the middle of a Schumer shutdown. The House of Representatives did its job. Speaker Johnson sent us a simple, straightforward funding bill that would keep the government open for 7 weeks, while we can negotiate on any other topic the Democrats want. But Chuck Schumer decided to shut down the government in the Senate for 2 reasons. One, he's scared of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running against him in his next reelection. And 2, he's scared of his radical left wing, who is demanding that they shut down the government out of pure hatred and spite of Donald Trump. Republicans are not going to bow to these tactics. We've made clear from the beginning, there's nothing to negotiate. Chuck Schumer wrote and voted for this exact kind of bill 13 times when he ran the Senate the previous 4 years. So we expect Democrats to do the responsible thing, to reopen the government, to make sure that our troops and law enforcement officers are being paid, that parks are open, that young women and children get the money they need to support their nutritional needs, and then we can negotiate anything the Democrats want.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going to do about that $1.5 trillion sweetener that they want to spend in a 7-week period of new money. I mean, I'm calling it a bribe. I'm just going there. All right, let's move on. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt fired right back at a reporter who tried to claim illegal immigrants are not receiving taxpayer-funded health care coverage. Watch.
U.S. law already prohibits that. It's a 1996 law saying that they cannot give unauthorized immigrants any federally subsidized health care coverage through Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, or the Children's Health Insurance Program. There seems to be a disconnect in the messaging.
What did the Democrats want in their continuing resolution? They inserted a provision to undo a provision in the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill, that ended taxpayer-funded health care illegal benefits for illegal aliens.
That's just a fact. That's what they did, Democrats. Senator.
That's right, Harris. They are saying that they want to hold the government funding bill hostage so they can provide taxpayer-financed health care for illegal aliens. And by the way, how do they propose to pay for it? By cutting $50 billion from rural hospitals across America. Again, if these are the priorities that they want to take to the American people in the election next year, we're happy to have conversations with them about funding our rural hospitals versus providing health care at taxpayer expense to illegal aliens, but not while they're holding the government at risk by not keeping it open for these simple 6 weeks. The Democrats need to reopen the government, and then we can talk about whatever they want. And if they want to talk about a political loser like taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens, we're happy to let them do so.
Real quickly, before we move to the next topic here, do you think you can, pick off those 5 more Democrats to join you the way that 2 Democrats and an independent have already done?
I hope so, Harris. I can tell you there's more than 5 Democrats in the Senate who know that Chuck Schumer has led them into a box canyon with this Schumer shutdown, but they're scared to break ranks with Chuck Schumer. They're scared to offend their radical left-wing base. But the consequences will start to pile up. Later this week, the Women, Infants, and Children's Nutritional Program will start to run out of money. Next week, our troops won't be paid. So I hope the Democrats come to their senses before those things happen, that we can reopen the government, and then we can go about doing the people's business.
All right, let's get to this. Critics are outraged at the sentence a Biden-appointed judge has given the would-be assassin of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. She sentenced Nicholas Roske to only 8 years and 1 month behind bars. The Justice Department had asked for 30 years to life. Roske just recently began to identify as transgender and now goes by Sophie. The judge said her sentencing took into account that Roske would be housed in a male-only facility. Well, he's a man, with potentially restricted access to gender-affirming care. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the DOJ will appeal a sentence she calls woefully insufficient. Another critic calls it a national disgrace. The Conservative Judicial Crisis Network President Carrie Severino warns it sets a dangerous precedent. Watch.
It's really disturbing that his mental health concerns and his concern of gender dysphoria was given as a literal get-out-of-jail-free card here. That's not how our system should work, and it's going to create a lot of bad incentives for people claiming gender dysphoria in the future if they think that's going to get them off of prison. And even worse, this sets a bad example in a time of rising political violence.
Amid the outrage at the sentence for a U.S. Supreme Court justice's would-be killer, Washington, D.C. police yesterday made an arrest outside the court's annual Red Mass. They say the suspect had the makings of a Molotov cocktail on the steps of St. Matthew's Cathedral. Wow. We push in on that a little bit. Senator, I want to go back to you on this original point of the sentence that this man got and how soft it was because he was going into a male prison. Your thoughts?
Harris, this is outrageous. This man, and he is a man, traveled across the country with the express purpose of kidnapping and killing a center-right Supreme Court justice. He was outside his home. He had the tools to break and enter, the tools to bind him up into kidnapping and ultimately kill him. He should be in prison for life, or at least a lot longer than 8 years. This radical left-wing Biden judge, though, gave him only 8 years, and she expressly said it was because he wouldn't be housed in a female prison because he now thinks he's a woman. So I hope the Department of Justice wins on appeal, but I think we need to maybe go a little bit further than that. Usually, any effort to impeach a federal judge is ill-advised and goes nowhere. But when this judge expressly refuses to give a proper sentence because she disagrees with the Trump administration's policy on not putting men in women's prison, I think the House should begin an investigation on whether this is grounds for impeachment.
Wow. Senator Cotton, great to have you in focus today. Thank you.
Thank you, Harris.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.